Good morning. Welcome to Tribune News on Q, your go-to morning news source only here at Daily Tribune. We are live on Daily Tribune's Facebook page, Daily Tribune PH on YouTube, and Daily Tribune Official on TikTok. For our headlines. Jesus Crispin Boying Remulla criticized term limits under the 1987 Constitution, saying they weaken governance and hinder lawmakers' development. A Pulse Asia survey finds Filipinos trust President Marcos Jr. mostly for his fight against corruption, cited by 28.6% of the correspondents. Ferdinand Marcos Jr. declares a national energy emergency as global oil disruptions raise supply concerns. Inflation could surge to 14.3%, warns Arsenio Balisacan as rising oil prices threaten the economy. Officials caution this may reduce purchasing power and slow growth in the incoming months. The Philippines faces another oil crisis, drawing comparisons between Ferdinand Marcos Sr. and Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Experts says strategies differ, but reliance on imported oil remains a key vulnerability. The peso weakens past 60 pesos per dollar, but Eli M. Remoluna Jr. says this may boost exports and ease the current account deficit despite risks of higher import costs and inflation. The Philippines has secured 1.8 billion pesos in grants from Australia to support jobs and economic reforms. Finance Secretary Frederick D. Go says the program will promote inclusive and sustainable growth. Filipina tennis star Alex Ayala prepares for the clay season, saying rivals are now studying her game. Despite her Miami Open exit, she remains optimistic heading into European tournaments. Top seeds Daniel Madis and Steffi Marit Aludo advanced to the Philippine Tennis Association Women's National Open Finals in Negros Occidental after dominating their semifinals. Both also eyed the doubles crown in the 335,000 pesos Group A event. Liza Soberano and her lead Forgotten Island, a Filipino-themed animated film set for global release, showcasing local culture and storytelling. Today is the 28th of March 2026, Saturday, and I'm Patricia Ramirez bringing you this week's top stories. Let's get started. Ombudsman Jesus Crispin Remulla criticized the 1987 Constitution's term limits, saying they weaken governance by preventing lawmakers from developing expertise and institutional memory. He warned that three-term limits encourage political substitution within families, disrupting continuity. Senator J.V. Ejercito stressed the value of experience gained from committee work in understanding national issues. University of Santo Tomas Dennis Coronacion disagreed, arguing legislative skills come from professional background, not tenure, and records preserve institutional memory. He added political dynasties result from the absence of an anti-dynasty law, noting that term limits and such legislation must work together to strengthen democracy. A recent Pulse Asia survey shows that Filipinos' top reason for trusting President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. is his fight against corruption, cited by 28.6% of the respondents. Metro Manila, Luzon, and Class D respondents led these sentiments, while Visayans and Mindanao residents also highlighted improvements in quality of life and disaster aid. For Vice President Sara Duterte, trust comes from perceptions of capability, pro-poor programs, courage, and responsiveness. The nationwide survey involved 1,200 adults with a negative 2.8% margin of error. Malacanang has declared a national energy emergency through Executive Order 110 as global oil supply disruptions raise fears of shortages. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. authorized measures to secure fuel supply and stabilize key sectors. The move follows Senate criticism, with Lauren Legarda calling out officials for downplaying the crisis. The Department of Energy warns of an imminent supply risk as tensions in the Middle East threaten imports. With the Philippines heavily reliant on foreign oil, authorities are now preparing conservation and contingency plans. Inflation in the Philippines could surge to as high as 14.3% if global oil prices continue to rise, according to Arsenio Balisacan. In a Senate hearing, Balisacan warned that under a worst-case scenario, inflation may climb sharply in the coming months, driven by soaring fuel costs. He added that higher prices could significantly reduce consumers' purchasing power and slow economic growth. Authorities say the situation may also impact remittances and household spending, raising concerns over the country's overall economic stability. The Philippines is once again facing an energy crisis, drawing comparisons between the 1973 oil shock and today's emergency under two Marcos administrations. During the 1973 crisis, Ferdinand Marcos Sr. pushed long-term solutions, including the creation of the Philippine National Oil Company and the Bataan Nuclear Power Plant. In contrast, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is focusing on short-term measures like fuel procurement and subsidies. Despite differing strategies, both crises highlight the country's continued reliance on imported oil and vulnerability to the global supply disruptions. The Philippine peso has weakened past the 60 pesos per dollar level, but Eli M. Rimolona Jr. says this is not necessarily negative. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas noted that the weaker peso could help boost exports and narrow the country's current account deficit. However, it may also raise import costs, including fuel, contributing to inflation. The central bank said it will only intervene in case of excessive volatility, as the currency remains largely market-driven amid global uncertainties linked to the Middle East tensions. Meanwhile, the Philippines has secured about 1.8 billion pesos in grant funding from Australia to boost job creation and economic resilience. The Department of Finance says the support will fund the Progress program aimed at expanding formal employment and strengthening businesses. Finance Secretary Frederick D. Go said the initiative will improve services and promote inclusive growth. The program will also support small businesses, clean energy investments, and reforms to address inequality and climate risks, helping position the country for a long-term sustainable development goal. Filipina tennis star Alex Ayala is preparing for key adjustments as she heads into the clay court season following her Miami Open campaign. Speaking in a podcast with Andy Roddick, Ayala said opponents are now studying her game more closely after her rise in the WTA rankings. Despite her round of 16 exit in Miami, Ayala remains optimistic as she gears up for upcoming tournaments in Europe, including stops in Austria, Spain, and Italy ahead of the French Open. Top seeds Danielle Mades and Steffi Marie Aludo booked a showdown in the Philippine Tennis Association Women's National Open Finals Friday at San Carlos Tennis Center in Negros Occidental. Mades defeated 4th seed Kay Ann Imana 6-2, 6-4, while Aludo clobbered 3rd seed Tiffany Nocos 6-0, 6-1. Both trained under former Davis Cupper Robert Angelo. The duo also secured doubles bronze in the 2025 SEA Games, and they'll face off for the singles title and aim for the doubles crown in a Group A event offering 335,000 pesos in total prizes. Filipino culture takes the global spotlight as Liza Soberano and her lead the voice cast of the animated film Forgotten Island. The project blends Filipino folklore, family themes, and everyday life for international audiences. Produced by DreamWorks Animation, the film also featured prominent Filipino talents and highlights cultural elements like jeepneys and OFW experiences. Set for release in September, the film marks a major step in showcasing Filipino identity on the global stage. That's all for now, mga katibo. Join us again tomorrow at 11 a.m. still here on Daily Tribune's Facebook page, Daily Tribune PH on YouTube, and Daily Tribune Official on TikTok. Also catch the diva that you love, Alwin Ignacio, and Ultra Maldita, Alex Brosas, later and tomorrow at 4 p.m. for the DTT show on Jario Terada's Facebook page and YouTube channel. Once again, I'm Patricia Ramirez, and this has been Tribune News on Cue.